Hello everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations and your assignment today. So in today's video we are going to look at Pluto Retrograde, and we're just going to kind of explore a little bit of the themes that are going to be taking place, giving you some dates on the transits, like when is Pluto going direct, when is Pluto turning retrograde, and looking at also the Mercury retrograde as well that will be taking place with this Pluto retrograde cycle. So this video is part of a playlist that is associated with the solar and lunar eclipses. And so you'll notice, if you've been following the playlist, that this playlist contains other videos in it, solar eclipse video, solar eclipse through the houses, and it also will contain some other videos as I go along through this eclipse portal. So be on the lookout for that. The information and link to actually check out the solar eclipse playlist is in the description. Okay? All right, so Pluto retrograde, it happens on the 29th of April, as you know. And this is an interesting one, I think. I mean, there are of course always going to be interesting retrograde dynamics, but this Pluto retrograde is going to be interesting in the sense that it's occurring at the late degrees of Capricorn. So the first thing that we need to know is that, of course, we've experienced since 2018 a very long Capricorn Pluto transit. We're pretty much dealing with the phenomena that is Pluto through Capricorn, social change, constant death and renewal of the way that public figures exist through cancel culture, looking at the overall structure of how we order ourselves as a collective, looking at themes of government, like how are governments existing in the world, how do they either work for the people or not, what's the relationship like, exposing the level of corruption that exists within governmental structures, and then looking at the overall social landscape that we as human beings have been traversing with so many changes that have been taking place for us. I mean, Pluto in Capricorn since 2010, I'm thinking more along the lines of Uranus going into Aries and stuff, you know, has really radically shaped and reshaped the way that we as human beings consider our work or consider what a job title is, you know. And so with Uranus squaring Pluto from 2012 up into 2018, we've really had a tremendous amount of accelerated changes take place. And I'm sure for many of you, you can kind of really see that occurring in our lives. So it's significant in the sense that it's towards the end. And so we're coming to the kind of completion phase of this Pluto cycle through Capricorn. We've got another 2 more years of it. But in the sense that when we come to the completion phase, or what we'll experience, because we're continuously exposed to this Plutonian through Capricorn theme, is, what's next? Where to now? Okay, we've kind of had a tremendous amount of the floor of the house being ripped apart and the planks being taken up, and kind of looking at all the bugs around there and saying, we've got to sort this issue out here. And so the question now is, what type of structure and flooring do we actually want to put in place? And this is an individual experience and a collective experience too. Okay, so there are three main themes that I want to address today. We're looking at death and rebirth, we're looking at heal and repair, and we're looking at social changes. Okay, so those are 3 topics, and we'll look at the chart of the Pluto retrograde and direct cycle. So on the screen now, you'll see this process of a death and rebirth, and really beginning to understand what this means. So Pluto represents the archetype of psychological and emotional metamorphosis. Okay, it is the unconscious material that arises to the surface, exposes the things that need to change, and when we interface with it, it can oftentimes feel like a deep eruption of really uncomfortable experiences and emotions that come to the surface that disorientate our sense of structure, our way of looking at reality, in a sense. And so right now, with death and rebirth cycle, Pluto's gone all the way to 28 degrees of Capricorn, and of course that's changed a tremendous amount the landscape regarding the way that we as human beings define ourselves. And I've talked about this quite a lot. When I talk about defining, I mean, what do we consider within our culture, within our societies, acceptable behavior or not? How has the landscape changed within the context of what was outdated and now what we will coin toxic or unhealthy behavior, right? Think of also the kind of relationship that we as human beings have had to the things that we have used in the past. Like, a long time ago, there was value in, say, a fax machine, or there was value in, say, a camera. And now today, for most people, an iPhone, or an Android telephone, for instance, has the capacity to take photographs. And so kind of eliminating certain things that we would have used in the past, right? It's kind of a process of elimination. And there are so many spectrums and places that I can, illustrate where these changes would take place within the scientific community, within the scientific field, technology that's being used, in an astrological space. How has an astrologer been defined now, and how has that changed over the past, right? In the past, maybe people would have seen astrology as just as kind of the mapping of the stars. But now you can kind of understand it as the mapping of the stars, but you can also use astrology as a tool for self-development and self-healing. You can, there's different branches. And so there's been a tremendous kind of death and renewal process collectively around the ways that we have become more accessible to defining things as what we can interact with and use it for. Whereas in the past, things had a certain purpose and then they have now become eliminated. So, looking at your own life, looking at where Pluto lands in your own chart, thinking about what has actually come up for you, depending on where your Pluto is, and what is being eliminated, right? What psychological and emotional attachments to, say, Pluto's transiting your fifth, right? And you're kind of going, I once found value and meaning in this, and now all of a sudden I'm noticing that that's not where my destiny is, or that's not what brings me joy and excitement. And so kind of moving away from that. Yeah. So that's the kind of theme here. If you look at the placement, you'll notice that there are patterns of elimination that are taking place, and you may feel like, these experiences suck because it's like you're having to let go of something, right? Or being even taken away from you. You're also becoming emotionally overwhelmed with the level of exposure to things that are deeply uncomfortable, right? And how do you process those deep emotions? So say Pluto in the 10th house, for instance, somebody really going through understanding the social structure and the rules and regulations and the responsibilities and what life direction is for them, and kind of getting a sense of, is this really what I want to do with my life? Or, really understanding how social situations work or political structures work and feeling comfortable with that or not, as an example. So, through this retrograde cycle, we'll experience, within those 2 degrees, we'll experience kind of going over themes that have been really present for you in that house placement, and you'll be revisiting them and asking yourself, is this attachment really healthy for me or not? Okay. So the second theme is heal and repair. Okay. Now, part of the process that comes along with Pluto transits is elimination, right? Elimination of attachments, elimination of patterns. And oftentimes those eliminations can happen without us even saying, yes, I want that, right? So this Pluto transit, in terms of heal and repair, is that it will give us the opportunity to begin to look at where there is potential damage that has happened in our lives, where, say, abandonment, loss, and betrayal has occurred, where we've had intense experiences that have left us fractured, and we need to kind of heal the psyche. We need to begin to process these more deeper complexes that are held within these very deep and complex emotional experiences. So say Pluto in the 7th house means that you may be going through an intense divorce, or that you're processing an experience of wanting to come into a relationship, but you're learning about your boundaries. You're learning about what is comfortable and what is not. Maybe you're processing a kind of a type of abuse in a relationship. And so you're really kind of coming into healing and putting together some emotional experiences that were very intense for you, that needed to be repressed in some way. And now you kind of can say, okay, I've got some space. I can just really acknowledge some of the grief, it's the sadness, the pain that comes along with some of these experiences, wherever that's been for you and what house that's landed, okay? And then finally, kind of touching on this dynamic of social change and social dynamics, you'll see on the screen right now. So thinking about social change and social expectations, like I said earlier, there's these themes throughout Pluto's transit through Capricorn where we've seen wide scale changes in the social sphere. Thinking about, how governments are reordering the way that we as human beings can interact with life. What are the new rules and regulations? What are the new proposed ideals that are going to support certain political agendas or not? And then thinking about the emotional sensitivity of the people around these new social expectations that are essentially emerging, right? What is a healthy thing to say? Like an example that I can give you is right now a deep emergent process that's coming out of the psyche is, people maybe not necessarily identifying with their biological gender. And so kind of struggling with that relationship between, I don't know how to language, structure, or define myself. And so right now, do I use a pronoun, for instance? Do I like to be addressed like this? Or do I want to remain this gender? And if I want to change my gender, like what does that imply? And how do I want to be addressed in social situations? And all of the types of difficult complexities that come around with different perspectives around whether that's good or bad, as an example. So the kind of social norms and social changes are of course taking place, and this retrograde planet or period will bring through what is the most recent things that we've been processing as a collective. So you'll see that. Of course, you also see this occurring in your natal chart around how your relationship is towards whatever house that's in, right? If it's Pluto in the second, your relationship to finances and money, and what you are considering to be essential or not, right? What do you wish to say, yes, this is correct for me and this is not? How you're defining yourself in a new way. It's kind of the Pluto transit and retrograde phase for us, right? And so Pluto retrograde also kind of brings in a phase where there's a little bit of, there's an acceleration of our attachment desire, and we'll notice when Pluto's retrograde, if you have Pluto direct in your life and Pluto goes retrograde, you will experience a kind of accelerated exhaustion of your desires. You may, notice that what you once attached to will go, I don't want to do this anymore, right? This is not interesting to me. And if you have Pluto retrograde in your chart, and now Pluto's going retrograde, you find yourself actually going, I want to commit to this, right? So that's an interesting dynamic that will take place through this Pluto retrograde cycle. So on the screen now, you're going to see the dates for Mercury retrograde. This is when Mercury retrograde will be occurring simultaneously with the Pluto retrograde as well. So you can have a look at those dates. And then finally, you'll see this is the chart of when Pluto actually goes retrograde itself. And then this is the chart of when Pluto is now going to go direct. So Pluto is going direct on the 8th of October at 26 degrees Capricorn, as you can see. And you'll notice there's a conjunction of Venus and Libra squaring Pluto. And if you notice when the Pluto is in retrograde, about to go retrograde, pardon me, you'll notice that in that chart, there's Venus in Pisces, and you've got Sun in Taurus. So the correlation here that I want to bring to is, if you look at the Pluto direct, it's in Libra and it's squaring Pluto. So there's social changes taking place there. But when Pluto is going retrograde, it's in the Taurus archetype with Venus and Pisces, and it talks about the culmination. So this energy of culmination seeds itself in the Pluto retrograde. And then when it actually goes direct, you see the emergence of the changes at a social sphere for us individually and collectively, and the changing of how our relationships work as well. So that's the kind of context for the Pluto retrograde video. Of course, this is going to be pretty impactful, and let me know in the comments section what you think of this Pluto retrograde and how it's going to impact you. Of course, if you liked this video, you thought this was valuable, share it with people, click the like button, and for those of you that are new to Raising Vibrations, make sure to subscribe to our channel as well, okay? And finally, before I let you go, thanks for watching, check out the playlist, and have an awesome day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.